Today we are conquering our winter blues. We're going to start off with our signature seafood gumbo, follow it up with a classic French onion soup, and to top it off, our signature cocktail. Are you ready to create your signature taste? Alright, so I know how the winter blues can get everyone down. But the best way to conquer the winter blues is with a great recipe. So let's go ahead and get started on our signature seafood gumbo. Now the most important part about a good gumbo is the roux. So here I have some vegetable oil. And my pot is hot. And I have a nice cup of flour. You see how much flour this is? This is the basis for everything. So we're gonna go ahead and sprinkle it in, because the goal is to let our flour cook down and get to this golden brown color. So you stir this in. We don't want any lumps because this is going to be the basis for our broth. Keep going and keep going. Put these two together, get them out of the way. And so now I'm going to just stir. Now, for any reason you get some lumps in here, you get a whisk and you whisk them out. But make sure you stir really good. So if you can see here, it's already beginning to turn brown, but it's not browned enough. And also, we want to let the flour kind of cook out. We don't want like that floury taste. So we're gonna let this cook out, give us a good basis for our gumbo. Stir really good, really good. So we're gonna let this go. So what I have here is some Old Bay, some Cajun seasoning, some smoked paprika, my favorite, and I have some more Cajun seasoning. It's two different kinds that I use. Now, however you want to get your flavors together, you can create them yourself. You might not want to use Cajun because it might be too hot. I like a little spice, and my kid likes spice, so I'm gonna go ahead and add it. And give this another stir. And I have a Dutch oven pot, and I have a wooden spoon. I'm gonna use wooden spoon on this pot because I don't want to like chip the metal and stuff like that. And then the Dutch oven, this is a 5-quart pan, and it can really hold a really good stew. We're gonna let that finish cooking. I have an onion here that I've already diced, a green pepper that I've already diced. I have some celery here that we already have the leaves in. I cut the whole thing, cut it up really, really small. Some garlic, green onion, and some celery. And I have chicken stock that we're gonna add to give us our amount, right? You don't necessarily have to use chicken stock. You can use water, you can use seafood stock. But you wanna go ahead, if you use water, to add more flavor. So right here nicely, our flour is cooking down. So this pale color is not good enough, okay? You still have to let it go. We want it like caramel, a caramel brown color. Make sure all that flour and everything cooks down, and you will be able to smell it. And it's really good here. Okay, so now our roux is this nice caramel color. This is where we're gonna add our trinity. Our trinity is traditionally onions, bell peppers, and celery. This is the basis of just depth flavor, right? I'm gonna add that onion in there. We're gonna let it cook down. I love that sound. Give it a nice stir, get it coated. Now I'm gonna go with my celery. Okay. And as you can see, the vegetables are binding to the roux. It's gonna help to cook it down. Now I also have the bell peppers, and it smells so good. And I know it's just vegetables, but this is a great start. We're gonna kiss those winter blues goodbye. There we go. it gets tender. Also, right now is where I like to start adding extra flavor, right? So I have some salt here. Start with a couple dashes of salt. And some fresh pepper. Alrighty. Give this another quick stir. So we let this go for about 4 to 5 minutes or until the vegetables are tender. And then we go ahead and we add our chicken stock. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this cook down, grab my seafood, and I'll be right back to finish putting this meal together. Alright, so I went ahead and I let my vegetables go ahead and get tender in that roux. What I didn't tell you is that I added a clove of minced garlic before I added my chicken broth. So when you first add your chicken broth to your roux, it's going to be a little chunky. That is where your whisk comes in. So you want to whisk it around. And as this becomes to come to a boil, the roux will thicken it and gives it this amazing color. So give that a nice little whisk. Now here's the part where the seasonings come in at. Okay. So we have some cayenne, some Cajun seasoning, some Old Bay, my favorite, smoked paprika. And now this is optional, but I love the flavor that it gives. I have some gumbo fire. So what the gumbo fire does is intensify the flavors, and it also helps thicken it. So I'm gonna give this another whirl around with my whisk. Mix it up really good. Get down the sides, everything off the sides. We need all the flavor. Give that a miss. Go back with some salt, a couple dashes. Some pepper. Ooh, you can smell it already. Now, we're gonna let this cook down. Give it another stir. Cover it. Let me grab my lid. We're going to cover it and we're going to let it come to a boil. Here's my seafood that I have. I have some king crab legs. They're already pre-slit. And I have some Dungeness crabs. Now, Dungeness crabs is not as sweet as your snow crab, but it gives it a very nice meaty flavor. I have some crawfish meat. It's already been peeled. Just the meat, very, very tender. And I have some peeled and deveined shrimp. Already been cleaned. So once this comes to a boil and it begins to get thickened, I'm going to add my shrimp and let those begin to get pink. Then my crab, and I'm going to finish it off with my crawfish. I got some rice cooking, and we're going to get a bowl and put this all together. Our signature seafood gumbo out of the way, it is time to start our classic French onion soup. Now, what I have here is about 5 tablespoons of butter. We're going to let that melt down. And we are going to add about 2 cups of sliced onions. Now, I slice them thin by using a mandolin. You can use your hand. It's going to take some time. So what we have to do here is let this cook down and get caramelized in a nice rich brown color. Now the key to this is that you don't want your onions to stick to the bottom of the pot. So it's very important that you stir them every once in a while. So we're gonna let this go. And let me tell you about what else I have on my board. I have some fresh sprigs of thyme. I have some provolone. I have some flour here, which is gonna thicken our soup. I have our beef broth, and I have some red wine. So I'm gonna go ahead and begin to get the thyme together while my onions are cooking down. Now this process is a little long, and there are some shortcuts, but at the end of this episode, I will let you know all the signature tips to get these meals done. So, this is your sprig of thyme. The easiest way to get the thyme off of the sprig is hold it up where the leaves are pointing up. Take your hand and pull it down. Now, I've cleaned this off, and there's my thyme. So I'm probably going to use about 4 to 5 sprigs of thyme, using our technique. And the fresh thyme is what gives it a great flavor. So you could use dried thyme. I do not suggest it because you're going to take away from the flavors that you can develop. Keep going. I also have some Gruyere cheese. So with the Gruyere and the provolone melted over our crusty baguette, it's going to be fantastic. So I'm going to pull these and cut it down. Dice them up really, really good. And continue to watch our onions. And when I get back, we're going to go ahead and make our signature drink so those flavors can marry. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and top it off with our signature drink. What I'm going to make is a grapefruit whiskey sour. Now, I am a whiskey girl, so I love whiskey. And I'm always looking for creative ways to kind of expand my drink. So I have a lime here. Make a few slices. And put that on the side. That's going to be for garnish. I have a grapefruit. Got a nice cut. I think this should be enough. Okay. I have about a cup of nice whiskey, whichever one is your favorite, and some grapefruit flavored pop. Just a little bit in there. I'm going to kind of give the grapefruits a little squeeze. Get them in there. Give this a stir. Oh, you can smell it already. I have my nice little glass. Pour it over. And I am going to garnish it with a grapefruit. And a lime. Very simple, very easy. My grapefruit whiskey sour. Let me give this a taste. This is delicious. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, and we're going to go and check on our French onion soup. Okay, so now that we have our onions good and caramelized, I'm going to add some flour. And I'm going to whisk it in because, again, we don't want any lumps. A little bit at a time. And let this go a little bit. And you can see, as I whisk it in, it's mixing in with the butter and the onions, which is a nice brown color. I am now going to add a little bit of minced garlic, some thyme, some pepper, some salt, and a pinch of smoked paprika. Give it another good whisk. This is the part where I like to add about a cup of red wine. There we go. Now we're gonna let that deglaze. We want to cook out all of the alcohol, so give this a stir. Clean up my area. There we go. Ooh, it smells so good. And so that flour is already beginning to thicken up. So that means that our soup is gonna have a nice consistency. Okay, so we give this a little whisk. Now, my beef broth. You can use homemade, you can use store-bought. Remember, no matter what, you always have to add your signature taste. Get this in here without making a mess. There we go. Get this out of the way. Give this a stir. I'm gonna go back with my whisk because again, I'm trying to avoid all of the lumps. Nice little stir. So it's very similar to how we did our roux with our seafood gumbo. There you go. Whisk it around. I'm gonna add a little bay leaf, and to balance out the flavors, I'm gonna use a half a teaspoon of sugar. There we go. I'm gonna go back, some more pepper. And some salt. There we go. Give this another stir. We're gonna let this simmer for about 25 minutes. I'm gonna get this area together. We're gonna cut up our baguettes and get ready to toast it. We'll be right back. Okay, so now our soup has reduced. You can smell the beef broth, the onions, the fresh thyme, and even the red wine. It's just, oh my God, it's just full of goodness. So this is how we're gonna finish off our French onion soup. I have a ladle and I have my ramekins. My ramekins are safe to go in the oven. Okay. Get all the goodness in there. Cover it up. I have a baguette and I slice it into about 6 pieces. We have 4. Put this over it. The Gruyere cheese. I'm gonna sprinkle it on here first. There we go. I have some provolone. I just ripped it up. Real rustic like. Now I love cheese, so I'm gonna go right back with the Gruyere. Top it. There we go. I'm not gonna miss you. Okay, so I'm gonna put these under the broiler until the cheese is nice, golden bubbly. I'm gonna grab our seafood gumbo and our signature drink, and then I'm gonna discuss our signature tips when we wrap it up. All right, so now we have our completed meals, okay? So we have our signature seafood gumbo, and I'm gonna finish it off with a few green onions. We have our French onion soup and a little fresh parsley to make it rock. Now here's our signature tips. Normally when you do a gumbo, a lot of people like to add okra, chicken, andouille sausage. You can do a chicken and andouille sausage, you can do a chicken, however you wanna do it. It depends on whatever your signature taste is. Now my signature tip for this French onion soup, sometimes I like to place cheese at the bottom of my ramekin before I add the French onion soup, and then add the baguette and the rest of the cheese. It all depends on you. And for the cocktail, it's whatever you like. Are you ready to create your signature taste? Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have the winter blues anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a taste. And when you get home, you go and create your signature taste.